You don't know about buy another one. I will leave. And another. Still fighting.
Good day, everyone. Please confirm that you can hear me. Hi, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm just giving it a couple more minutes for some other of your colleagues to join in. So we have 10 persons here. So let's just give it a couple more minutes, then we can start. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first class. It's been a while, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us have been waiting for this day. Yeah, so yeah, the day is here, and we can eventually start our class. Basically, although we're still going to be touching a couple of introductory stuffs because yeah, we've been setting up our machine, we've been setting up our text editor and stuff like that. And I can see that a lot of us are still having issues with some of these things. But luckily for us, week one still helps us to touch a bit into it. So we're going to be touching a bit of setup of our system and also a bit of introduction to C# or .NET, as the case may be. So the call is being recorded. Let me confirm that that's happening. Yeah, so the call is being recorded. So at the end of the class, I'm going to share it with the admin guys to help us post on YouTube. So you could also watch the call again after the class. Well, basically, like I said earlier on, you want to attend these classes because I think it gives you an edge over someone who's just watching the video much later on. For one thing, you could probably ask questions. I can see that someone's hand is up, Kelvin. Kelvin, I don't know, do you have a question? Kelvin, are you there? Do you have a question? Okay, I assume not. All right, so yeah, let's just jump right in. Learning objectives and core outcomes for this program, right? So learning outcomes, technical abilities are skills needed to succeed in a C# web API development. So you need, or at the end of the day, you're going to be having technical abilities which will be skills needed to succeed in a C# web API development, right? And you're going to learn the basics of programming with C#. Most of the slides that we're going to be sharing with you would, contain these learning outcomes. That way, it reminds you of what the learning outcome of this program, especially the C# part of the program, is, right? So you're working with primitive and non-primitive types. You get to find out what those are later on. You learn the fundamentals of C# and .NET Core web API development, and much more than that, right? So probably going to be adding a little bit of containerization and stuff to it also. You're going to learn how to work with conditional statements. You're going to find out what those are, how to write clean C# codes, how to work with arrays and work with loops. Remember, this is a week 1 and 2 slide. So most of these things is not just for week 1 and 2, but for the rest of the program, right? So for week 1, we're going to be working on setting up our Visual Studio Code, which most of us have already done. But we're going to be seeing some of the issues that we might come across and how to solve them and stuff like that. We're also going to be learning how to use please, can you all hear me, please? Someone just mentioned that they can't hear me. Please, can you all hear me? Someone should please confirm that you hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
So Declan or Declan, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrongly. Just fix your mic or speaker or something. That might help. Okay, so using the command line interface, yeah, so we've done a bit of this when we're checking the version of .NET that was installed, but then we're going to go a bit deeper into it and how to really work with the command line interface. Remember, I mentioned that if we're using Visual Studio Code, we're going to be working more with the command line, which is going to be a huge help or a huge boost, because that way you'll be able to comfortable working with the command line. Also, say hello with C#, something basic like Hello World and Hello World application using a C# console app. And then something that is really important as a software developer, debugging a C# app, right? So you have like a huge program, right? And then there's something wrong with it, but you don't know where it's coming from. One of the things that can help us with this is to debug our application, right? So we're going to be also teaching you how to do that on this call, while you're also going to, dig deeper into some of these things on your own. Remember, this is a self-paced, this is like a self-paced environment. Like we said, you're going to be learning most of this stuff on your own. We're going to be giving you resources where you're going to be reading through. And then if you have questions, you can ask. And any of the mentors that are available would reach out to you. And if it requires like a call, then probably one will be created for those who are available to join, and then that will you'll be able to solve whatever issues you might be having before the next week. What else? So more learning objectives, right? The core abilities for students in our program are listed below. They are designed to be the overarching goals for everything you do. Each of them has been specifically requested by the employer network, and we believe that they are good goals for all developers to aspire to and flesh out. 1, create code quickly and efficiently. Remember, I said this is not like the objectives for this week or next week, for the whole program. So it's just going to keep coming up so that you remember that, oh, this is what we're supposed to be aiming at, right? And this is our goal at the end of the day. So give me a second. All right, so create code quickly and efficiently, create high quality code, collaborate with teammates effectively. So at some point, you're going to be working in a team, and then you should be able to collaborate with those teams effectively. Understand and apply current technologies and learn new technologies and techniques easily. Then we'll move on to week 2, where we'll be touching on built-in types, type conversions, nullable types, anonymous types, dynamic types, variables in C#, right? So basically some of the most simple, what do I call this now, concepts, right? In programming is called variables, right? So you're learning any language at all, you need to understand variables in those languages. Now, variables in C# would mean that you need to learn some of these types, right? And we're going to be touching most of these in week 2, but we're also going to be giving resources beforehand, so you could also go through them before, and then when we're touching it, if you have any questions, you can then ask. And we're going to be giving you tasks, which at the end of week 2, you should submit. They are called labs. So for week 1 and 2, you have 2 labs, which will be given to you, and then everybody would have to submit these labs. I'm pretty sure we should have a class on Git and GitHub, because you're most likely going to be submitting using GitHub, right? So I'm pretty sure we should have that, but probably that would be next week. However, for now, this is it. Then our resources. So for the first 2 weeks, you can use these 2 links. I'm going to be sharing this slide with everyone on the channel. So for the first 2 weeks, you can use these 2 links to get all that you need for the first 2 weeks. So, but like I said, we're going to be touching briefly on some of these things so that at least you have an idea of what you're jumping into, and not just, jumping in and not knowing where to go from there. So week 1, I'm going to pull out slides for now. Like I said, we've already touched on setting up our Visual Studio. So I'm going to bring up my Visual Studio code. I'm sorry I keep saying Visual Studio. It's Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio is a different application. So this is Visual Studio Code. It's lightweight, easy to run, and all of that. So setting it up, we've already touched on it, and we've also touched on the extensions that you need installed on your Visual Studio Code. Most of you have already sent in your task. If you haven't, the task is supposed to expire by 6 p.m. today. So if you haven't, please send in your task by 6 p.m. today latest. If you have all of this, then you should have like a fun time coding with C#. It's going to be easy, it's going to be clear and simple, right? So that's for setting up Visual Studio Code. Now, using the command line interface, this is where things become tricky. So I'm going to bring up the command line. So I'm going to bring up the different options. Sorry, let's see. Let me close this. That's my command line. So this is one option. I'm going to bring up another option called PowerShell. Basically, you can do whatever you want to do on any of these command lines. That's PowerShell. Should be coming up. Then finally, right here in VS Code, there's also something called terminal, which is also the same thing as our command line on our Windows machine. I don't know what happened to PowerShell. Let me try to get it again. PowerShell. Windows PowerShell. Okay, yeah, it is. Let me see. We have messages. We can't see your screen. Can't see a Visual Studio Code screen. Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing and share. I think I only shared the please tell me you can see my screen now. Can you see my screen now? We can't. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing totally and reshare the reshare again. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare again. Let's see. How about now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. So
Yes.
I'm bringing up 3 options that we could use for our command line. I have Windows PowerShell here. I think every one of us should have it on our machine pre-installed, but if you do not have it, then there's also command prompts. Yeah. And then right here on our VS Code, there's also this terminal. So what is our command line, right? So when we say command line interface, right? So prior to recently, when a lot of applications are coming up with what we call GUIs or graphical user interface, what most people communicating with our machine is this command line, right? So let me use this for now. If you notice, yeah, you notice that it's saying C:/users/HP. So what it's saying that inside my C drive, it's in the users folder, and inside my users folder, it's in the HP folder, right? So if I come into my C drive here, let's see. This is my C drive now. You can see C here. If I come into my C drive, I can see the users folder, and I can also see HP folder. So right inside HP folder, we have all of these folders. And right here, you can see it starts from C, users, and HP. If I go back to my command prompt here and type in dir, which means directory, it's going to give me a list of all of these folders inside my HP folder. You can see here, Android, Azure Data Studio, blah, 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 config, up to videos, which is down here, and then some other files that it's not bringing up here, right? So basically what we have here is what we have here, just that this is what we call the graphical user interface. It's an interface that you can relate to. It's graphical, and all you need to do to go into the documents folder is double click on it on the GUI. But for our command prompts to go into the documents folder, all you need to do is type in CD, which stands for change directory, and then type in the folder you want to go into. And then it goes into that folder. And now, previously it stopped at HP, but now it's at documents, which is the same thing here. Previously it stopped at HP, but now it's at documents. And then I can now type in dir to see everything that I have inside of my documents here, as you can see, right? So using the command line isn't that difficult. All you need to know is there's certain commands that you can use to work with the command line, right? One of it is CD, which stands for change directory, and then the name of the directory that you want to go into. Then if you want to go back out, cd change directory and then dot, which means go back out one step. And then it takes you out of the documents directory and brings you back to HP directory. So now you're back out, it's just like pressing this back sign, and then it takes you back out to the HP directory. So that's another command, cd dot, which takes you back out to the previous directory. Now, the one that we used earlier on, directory, just tells you the amount of folders or files that we have inside a particular directory or folder, right? Then that way you can now figure out which one you want to go in. So right now I want to go into my desktop. I'm going to just do cd D. Then if I do not even know the folder I want to go to, after typing the first letter, I can just press tab and it gives me all the options that have like D in front of it, right? And I want desktop, I'm just pressing enter. And right here, I want to go into another folder, which is inside my desktop, but I know it. So I'm just going to tap, pressing tab, go into that folder. This is where I want to do most of my work. And I'm right there inside that folder, which is the same thing as, let's see, desktop and VNC teach, right? So this is the same folder that I am inside. If I press in dir, it just gives me all of these projects that I have inside that folder. So there are a lot of other stuff that you could learn while working with the command line, right? You could just try practicing with it, going out of a folder, going in of a folder, going into a folder, checking the directory list of that folder. Also, we could have, let's see, you could also make a folder by typing in mkdir, which is make directory, and then the name of the folder. So I'm just going to play with it. Tests, and then, so if you check in here, you see that there's no test anywhere. Okay, there's test app and there's test app 2, right? But there's no test. So if I do this, it has created that test. If I check in the directory and scroll down, you see that test is created. If I go into the test, there's nothing in it. And if I type in dir, it will tell me that there's nothing, right? Has no label. And there's nothing in it. So basically, and then if I come in here, right now, you can see that the test has been created here and there's nothing in it, like we said. So I'm just going to delete this. There's also a way to delete it using the command line, but you could just try that out yourself, right? Okay, it's saying that it's locked in somewhere. So I'm just going to come out of it, cd dot, and then I can now delete it. Great. All right, so that's one or two things about the command line interface. And I'm pretty sure you could just play around with it, research some more about it, but basically with changing into directory and changing out of directories, you should be good to go for this first part of our lectures. And then let's see what we have here. Saying hello. All right, great. So saying hello with C#. Now, I am also assuming that we all already have .NET SDK installed, right? So let's see. So I already have the .NET 6 installed, right? So basically, most of you should not have it by now, or wouldn't have it by now, or haven't gotten it by now. And I don't expect you to get it. Siri Daniels, please fix your mic or something. That might help with hearing me. Okay, so I don't expect you to get it, right? So I expect everyone to have at least the .NET 5, right? This one, 5.0. Whatever you have outside of this. So whatever you have outside of this could be 4, could be 5, could be 6, doesn't matter, but it should be 5 outside here, right? So I expect every one of us should have that installed on our machine. Then I think if I type in this .NET New, it gives us a lot of options as to what can be created, right? With this SDK, right? You could create a web app, a result application, a Blazor server, a class library, a console application, WinForms, a BPF, and a lot more, right? So this is just a list of some of them, right? There are lots more that you can create using .NET SDK. But for the first couple of weeks, we're going to be working with console applications. So all I need all of us to do is, so for me, what I'm going to do is right here on my desktop, I'm going to create a folder. So let me just work with the GUI so that we're not confused, right? I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to call it Wella else school. So I have the folder here. Then I'm going to come back to my my command line. So right here in my desktop, so I need to go back out because I need to be in my desktop. Then I'm going to look for Wella else school. Yes, I'm going to go into that folder. So right here in this folder is where we're going to be working with different applications as we're learning, right? So for our first case, to create a console app, all you need to do is .NET new console, right? -O for output. So you're now saying what the name is going to be, right? So I'm going to call it Hello World App, right? So this is what I'm going to call it. So for you, most of you already have just one SDK on your system. You can press enter here, and then it's going to create a console app with .NET 5 SDK. But for me, I have 3 SDKs. So I have to force it to work with .NET 5, which is what I'm going to do with -F, which is force, then net 5.0. Right, so I'm forcing it to create one with .NET 5.0 SDK, right? But for those of you who already have just one SDK, you do not need to add that argument to this command, right? So what I'm going to do is go into desktop. So I want us to see what is happening while we're creating this, right? So I'm going to press enter now. And you're going to see it creates right in here, Hello World app, and inside here, create our program.cs file and then our CS proj. I'm going to explain what these are in a bit, but this is what we have. Then I can now come into our Hello World app and then open up Visual Studio Code using code dots. So I went into the application, into the folder, and I typed in code space period, and it opens that project in Visual Studio Code, right? So you could see the powerfulness of what's it called now? The powerfulness of our command line interface. It's very powerful, and you could use it to do almost anything, right? It's almost as if you're working with the GUI. So yeah, that's that. So right now we have our program.cs. I think we've seen this before, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. Okay, great. I think this is perfect. We're almost running out of time. Let's see how fast we can round this up on my Zoom. So my Zoom isn't paid, so I have just 40 minutes to do this, and we have 10 more minutes, right? Okay, so right now you can see that it created this project. I'm going to explain this on our next call, right? Namespace. Oh yeah, so most times when you create a project, you're going to get this prompt, required assets to build and debug are missing from Hello World app. Add them. Always click yes, because this is one thing that you would need to be able to debug the application. Always click yes. Now, so let's see. I'm going to explain what this is in our next class, namespace, then class, right? In our next class, or probably much later. But for now, this is what I want us to focus on. This console, the right line. So it's saying in our console, write in a line, hello world. So now to run this, all I need to do is .NET run. And then it's going to print in our console, hello world. Okay, let's give it a couple of seconds. Okay, great. Yeah, so if I can also switch this and also type in hello world from Wella Else School. And so yeah, another thing I did on my VS Code is click on this auto save, right? So after the end of every keystroke, my VS Code automatically saves my work. So I don't need to press Ctrl S every time, right? So just automatically save. That's under file, you can see auto save. Then if I run this again, we're going to now have 2 lines of hello world and hello world from Wella Health School, right? And then I can also add more hello worlds, or I could add, let's see, welcome to week 1 of lectures. So I'm going to run this, and it's going to have 3 lines of hello world from Wella Health School, and welcome to week 1 of lectures. Perfect, right? So this is like a simple console application, but all we're doing right now is just printing to the console strings, right? Or letters, right? So these are letters or strings. That is just what we're doing to the console, right? So for these folders, on our next call, we're going to be explaining what they are, and then CSproj, basically it's just an XML file that states what version of .NET you're using, the SDK, and then some other stuff might be added to this much later on. So it's just like settings for your application. Nothing much happening there. And you're not even going to be working there at this time at all. You're not going to be working there. All you're going to be working in, everything you're going to be doing right now is in our program.cs, because this is like our entry point of the application. So when you click on .NET Run, it comes to this place and looks for the program file and class, and then comes in to look for the main method, and everything that is happening in the main method is executed into whatever you want it to do, right? Finally, how to debug an application, right? So like I said, you have like, let's see, this is just a simple application with 3 lines, but I could make it have a number of lines. And normally this is supposed to work. There's no bug here, but I'm just assuming that, oh, we have like a bug somewhere on line, let's say line 17, right? And we don't know where the bug is coming from. I could just put this cursor behind the number, and you see that a red dot is forming there, and I can click on it. Just going to put like something called a breakpoint, right? And yet, right here in VS Code, you see this icon called Run and Debug. If I click on it, because we already have this VS Code file that gives us a launch.json file and a tax.json file, all we need to do is just click on this Run and Debug, click on play, and then it's going to run our application, but in a debug console, not in our terminal this time. It's this debug console, right? So once that is happening, it's going to get to our main method and then find out that there's a breakpoint somewhere here. Then it's going to stop at that breakpoint and not run the rest of our application. After which, we can now decide to either jump through the rest of the application or go through the rest of the application step by step, right? So as you can see now, it's right here on our breakpoint. And then we have all of these icons on right here. This one says continue, which means continue through the rest of the project unended, right? This one says step over to the next line. If I click on step over, you can see it's printed what we have on line 9, and then it stops at line 10. If I click on step over again, it will print line 10 and stop on line 11. If I do the same thing, it just keeps doing that. And then if you have, let's say, an error anywhere, and then it gets to that point, it's going to break, and then you know that, oh, probably line 13 is our problem. Now let's find out what's happening in line 13 that is making it our problem, right? If you have like a method, you can now step into that method to see what's happening inside that method. You could also step out of a method and you can reload or stop your debugging, right? So it's as simple as that. And it just goes step by step, going through your program. And then once it gets to the end, just exits the program. Yeah, so it has exited the program. Yes, the program, blah, 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 has exited with code 0. So it means there is no errors or no bugs in our program. So that is just exactly how we can debug. You're probably not going to be needing this right now, but trust me, you're going to be needing it much later in our program when we start having more than one files here, and then you don't know where the error is coming from. Then you need your debugger. All you need to do is put a breakpoint and then go into your app step by step to get whatever the issue may be. So I think we're good for today. So far, we've been able to set up our Visual Studio Code. We've been able to use the command line interface. We've been able to say hello using C# application, and we've also been able to debug our C# app, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this call here, and I'm going to start it all over again so that we can ask questions, right? But this call is the one that we're going to be sharing on YouTube, right? So the question and answer session will just start immediately after this call. So all I needed to do is click on that same link again. Once this call ends, then you're going to come back up. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the class today.